My dear viewers, so today's question is, what is the difference between final, finally and finalize keyword? Okay, this question is very important for Java interviewers, right? And it is a very favorite question which they know normally every time they ask the same question: what is the difference between final, finally and finalize keyword? Okay, it's most favorite question. So please, before going to any Java interview, you please study this question properly. Okay, so let me explain this. So basically these three words seems to be similar, right? But there is a lot of difference between all these three keywords. So let's go to first final keyword. So when this final keyword is used, so if suppose final is used anywhere, okay, before any variable or a method or a class, okay, final keyword can be used before the variable or method or a class, right? So if a final keyword is used before a variable, that means that variable will be marked as what? Constant. Okay, so if the variable is marked as a constant, then we cannot reassign that variable to a different value. Once that value is fixed, we cannot assign any new value to that particular variable. So it's telling that that variable declaration is now final. Okay, in the future you cannot change that particular variable declaration. Whatever you declared, that is final. Similarly, if a final keyword is declared before any before any method, then what will happen? Normally this is done when we are having inheritance, and the derived class, suppose any function is marked as what? Final. Then that function cannot be rewritten. Okay, we cannot override that particular function. Once that is marked as final, then nobody can override that particular function. The declaration of or definition of that particular function is final. Nobody can change, nobody can override that particular function. And at the same time, if a class is marked as final, that means inheritance is not possible for that particular class. Okay, whatever is the declaration of the class, that is final. Nobody can derive any child class from that particular class. So remember, when final is used, whenever a final keyword is used, that means the declaration of that particular entity is final. Okay, for example, if a final keyword is declared before the variable, that means the variable will become constant. The declaration of that variable is constant. For in future we cannot assign any value to that particular variable. If it is declared before any methods, then nobody can override that particular method in a derived class. Okay, so this happened basically in inheritance, right? If a method is marked final, that means the declaration or definition of that method is final. Okay, nobody can override that particular method. And if a final keyword is marked before a class, that means the declaration of class is final. Nobody can inherit from that particular class, or nobody will be able to create object derived class from that particular class. Let's go to the next one. So it's a finally keyword. So remember, finally keyword normally is used for a block of code. Okay, so it is associated with a block. So normally whenever we write a try and catch block for any exception handling, in the same we also attach finally keyword. So we always write finally code for this particular, for the exception handling. So suppose why we write, for example, if in a try catch there is some problem of the exception, so it will go to that particular exception, right? So like this we can have a multiple exception 1, exception 2, exception 3, right? So like this we can have multiple exceptions. So in a try block, the particular exception will be raised and it will go to that particular associated handler. Okay, now what is the use of the finally is whatever happens, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever exception is raised and it is being handled, finally you will have to execute this particular code which is written inside this finally block. So whatever things is written inside the finally block, that must be executed at the end. So normally which kind of code we normally write in the finally? For example, if any exception is raised, that means some problem has happened over there, right? So normally we write in finally some closing connection code or cleanup code. For example, no, we want to delete certain thing, we want to deallocate certain thing, right? So that kind of code we write in finally block, because finally section will be definitely executed. Okay, it doesn't matter which kind of exception is raised. Now let's go to the next one, finalize. So finalize is basically a method, okay, it is associated with a garbage collector, right? So what happens whenever no any object is destroyed, who destroyed the object? That is a garbage collector, okay. Garbage collector will collect the object, and then whenever it will have a time, suitable time according to it, whenever a scheduler schedule it, it will try to destroy it, right? And when a object is being garbage collected, when there is no reference to that particular object, right, and it is there for some time in the memory and nobody is being referring to that particular object, then that object is qualifies to be a garbage collection. Clear? So garbage collector basically, let's say suppose this is a garbage collector, okay, where, so this is a garbage collector and this is a object. So if this object is not having any kind of reference in the program, then this qualifies to be a garbage collector for garbage collection, right? So garbage collector will try to collect this particular object. Now what happens when the finalize method will be executed, right? When this object will be, when garbage collector will try to destroy this particular object, at that time whatever code is remaining with this particular object, okay, for example this object is being removed from the memory, so this object will tell the garbage collector that I am remaining with two particular tasks or one task, please do that particular task, right? So whatever task is remaining, that will be written in the finalize method. So you can always write certain things in the finalize method, so that even though if the object is being it is called for garbage collection, then that particular things will be executed. For example, if this object has opened multiple connections to the database or some network connections, right? So and the garbage collector comes and it tries to destroy this particular object. So whatever things we have written, so in the finalize method we must have written what, the closing connections of the network connection or the database connection code. So that code will be executed and this then the object will be destroyed, right? So before destroying the object, that code will be executed. That's why that is written inside the finalize method. So I hope all these three methods will be clear to you. Let's again see one more time the final method, final keyword, finally, and finalize. Final is a keyword which is used normally before a variable, class, or method. So if this is used, that means the declaration of that particular entity, whether it's a variable, class, or method, that is final, okay. Nobody will be able to change in the future. Finally, normally it is associated with reference to a block. So it is written where it is written with the try and catch block, and after that there will be a finally section. So it doesn't matter which kind of exception is raised and handled, right? The finally section will always be called. So normally we write over there some cleanup code or some connection closing code in the finally block. And then the finalize method is there, which is some kind of method which is always being executed if it is there, if it is written for the object, okay. So if object is being destroyed or object is being called for garbage collection, then it will try to execute the finalize method, because that code has to be executed, and in that code, in that section, there must be some code related to, like closing of the connection, database connection, or closing of network connection. That kind of important code must be there. So whenever a garbage collector will try to destroy this kind of object, it will always call first finalize method, and if we try to close all the connection, or it will do the cleanup work. So thanks a lot for watching my videos. Please revise all these 3 different types of words, and then you can go to interview. So like this, in this series will be so we will be seeing different interview questions. Keep watching my video. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel.